What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
And this is episode 2 of season 2 of Discussing Daggerheart.
I feel like season 1 was more like the pilot, right? When we didn't have the
did
correct
multiple
actors,
episodes, though.
Didn't have the correct script. I know.
What? The pilots? That's not what a pilot is.
Well, it was a pilot that didn't get picked up like Game of Thrones, and then they remade the pilot with different script, different people, you know?
I did a pilot for a TV show called Twisted, I think.
Oh.
On ABC Family.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, oh, yeah, you guys are going to be like part of the show. It's going to be like, we shot in Dobbs Ferry, New York. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know, I didn't have any lines in the pilot, but there were non-contractual things said.
Yeah.
About the future of the show.
Yeah.
And then when the show got picked up, they were like, but we're going to film it in LA and we're only going to take a few people with us. And I was like,
and you are
cool.
not.
Yeah. And they didn't do anything wrong. I had no contract. They didn't owe me anything. But, you know,
just happens.
It was one of those sets where the excitement was like, everyone was so like, this is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this thing as if it's going to have every opportunity in the world. And then when it didn't, it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of
entertainment industry.
Speaking of excitement, I feel like just finished watching Critical Role do their session 0 of...
Right, we're discussing Daggerheart.
Yes, we are discussing Daggerheart of Age of Umbra. And the one thing that I will say is that they all seem so stoked for the game, for the setting, for their characters. And I think that is really what makes a session 0 so special, is to kindle that flame of you need to show up every week.
No pun intended.
Yes, it is very Souls inspired.
Keeping the flame, gotta keep the flame burning. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about session 0s, particularly as they relate to Daggerheart, because Daggerheart does have some built-in mechanics that are different for session 0s than other systems.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that through the lens of Critical Role's Age of Umbra Session 0 session, because, you know, they made this game.
Yeah.
And as a lot of the people who are critical of this game say, they made this game in their style, right? Daggerheart is very much seems built for Critical Role's preferred way of playing games.
Yeah.
Which I think is also closer to our preferred way of playing games.
Sure. I think that's a good way to build a game, is build something that you like.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what you should do.
Well, and it gets into the whole, like, people who are like, well, they kind of made a game that's, like, really role play heavy and, like, that would be fun if you're, like, improvisers. And I'm like, yeah, because they're heavy role players and improvisers. Like, what kind of game did you think we were going to get from them?
Yeah, let someone else make the crunchy granola stuff who's good at the crunchy granola stuff and likes it.
Yeah, right? There's so many systems now that, like, the idea that Daggerheart needed to be something else... When Pathfinder, if you really want to go the crunchiest of crunchy, go play Pathfinder 2e.
Those games exist. Yeah.
But if Critical Role had made another Pathfinder, people would be like,
all right,
why did you make this?
Yeah.
You guys barely pay attention to the rules when you play. That's not true. They're pretty good.
Rules soft.
Yeah. Not quite as soft as like Dimension 20, but you know.
Sure. Or was it Dungeons and Daddies at the beginning?
Well, they're not even. They don't follow the rules at all.
But it's funny. It doesn't matter.
Calling Dungeons and Daddies, trying to pretend that they follow the system is hilarious.
They just do what they want. And that's what improv is.
And their show is great, right? Like, I'm not criticizing the quality of their show. I've listened to every episode of Dungeons and Daddies. I'm a little bit behind on the Call of Cthulhu season. But I've listened everything, you know, from season 1 and 2. But there are times where you're listening and they're like, whatever. Yeah. Like on mic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Session 0s. Clarus, you just said that session 0s are about the excitement of a new campaign. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I think that, look, if you don't have already a thoroughly committed group of people, we all know that the big bads of TTRPGs is scheduling, right? That is the big bad, making sure that everyone can come together to make the story happen, make the campaign work, and people have lives, people have a schedule. And so I think that really, like, getting your players in the room for session 0 to get them excited about the story you're building and the characters that they get to play is such a huge step in making sure that everybody wants to show up week to week and helping to further the story. Back in like, the before days, when I wanted to run my own campaign, I attempted to do a session 0 before I even knew like what that meant. Like I didn't even know it was a session 0. I was like, guys, come over. We're gonna like build your characters together.
Yeah.
And it made me very excited. There was one person who hadn't even read any of the books or knew what we were doing, and so that kind of put a damper on it. But as long as everyone shows up with the same expectations of what this is, I think that it really helps to, set expectations for the campaign.
Yeah.
Super important. Boundaries, very important. And also establish what kind of story that you're going to tell. Sometimes in session 1, if people sit down and half the people are trying to do a comedy and half the people are trying to do a drama, and then there's one person who wants to be Batman, like by themselves, it can be a little tough. It takes some time to bring everybody together and get it to be cohesive. And I think session 0s are great for surpassing some of that first kind of couple of sessions. I don't know what you want to call that, like difficulties.
Yeah, it's partially about like finding the blend. Well, one of the things, to bring this to Daggerheart specifically, that I think that weirdly I see a lot of criticism for, but I think is actually a really clever way to help session 0 and to help those opening sessions of a game is the connection system, right? Is the like, let's have some questions for each other's characters that aren't really that relevant to the plot. You know, I think in this, one of them was Taliesin asked Sam, like, what is something, and this, we're going to have mild spoilers for, it's a session 0, so it's not really spoilers for the session 0, but we are going to talk about specific things that they say in the Critical Role video that they posted last Thursday.
Yeah.
In advance of the Age of Umbra 1-shot, or 8-shot, I think it is, starting this Thursday. So definitely watch that. But Taliesin asked Sam, like, what's something about me that annoys you? And Sam replies with, I've never said this to you, but you have this smell, right? And one of the things that I think is so fascinating about that kind of connection is that Taliesin immediately has something about their character that they know that their character doesn't, but that they can lean into a little bit.
Yeah. That
they, like, now they have a way to interact with Sam's character where they can, like, intentionally get closer in order to try and push Sam's character. And this again goes into, like, being a heavier RPG game.
For sure.
Or a the role-playing aspect of the game. Yeah. Of, like, trying to get Sam's character to say that thing, right? And without metaing too much.
Yeah.
But a little bit.
Within reason.
No, but a little bit. You know, I think that people get so against metagaming because of, like, combat mechanics or because of, like, well, hearing conversations that your character wasn't there for. But in this case, it's more about trying to put some... it's not just positive connections, right? They built up a couple of tension points so that the relationships that they're role-playing can have some conflict and thus can grow, right? I think that one of the things that is a landmine when it comes to TTRPGs is when you're setting up a campaign and your player characters are all friends. And it's like, well, how did we become friends?
Yeah.
What do we like about one another? Yeah. What is my favorite thing to do with you?
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you're playing the campaign and you're like, well, I love them and I'll die for them in combat. But when we're outside of combat, we don't have a lot of... There's nowhere for these relationships to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already know each other. We already like each other. We already accept each other's flaws and we're good.
Yeah.
And there's like that element of, if you want to get into role playing, like there is fun in conflict. It's one of the things about season 3 of Critical Role that ends up, getting so fascinating. And I think at times making the audience uncomfortable because the audience kind of wants Bell's Hells to be a little bit more cohesive. But there's so much inter-party conflict in that campaign that led to really interesting growth. And these characters that really kind of shifted and evolved and grew into something else. And a lot of those conflicts are in session 1, right? Are in session 0.
Yeah.
The whole Delilah of it all and everything that kind of plays out. It's really fascinating to set up your game with the potential for your characters to butt heads a little bit.
Yeah. I think two things are really important when establishing connections are goals for your character. Like, are your character's goals aligned or are they not? Do they want different things or do they want the same thing but achieved in a different way? And also number two is locations. Because you can have a party of friends. You can have a party of people who all grew up in the same place but have never known one another, right? You can have people from the same place, different classes, right? What kind of conflict does that arouse? Well, you grew up rich and you grew up poor, and those kind of things. So I think that the connections, the goals, and the locations are all really like tightly woven, and I loved that they established locations in this place together. Right? Obviously, there's the map. There's things that are pre-established, but where are you from, and what is that place like through maybe a stranger's eyes and also your eyes, right?
Well, and to that, like, I think that there's a there is a pushback against Daggerheart that I've seen quite a bit of people being like, well, if my players are creating the important locations, then I, as the DM, have to essentially wait until session 0 to start doing my job. You know what I mean? Like, there's an element of no, I don't. I'm gonna. This is the criticism I've seen. I'll provide my counterpoint in a minute. But what I've seen in a lot of TikToks and stuff is like the Daggerheart wants to take that off of the DM a little bit.
Yeah.
But in some ways, when trying to build out like what's going to happen and where the characters are going to go and where the events of the world take place, that can take weeks and months or years of DM's life trying to make sure that the world is plotted out, and then to show up to session 0 and have that like tossed aside is maybe not the kind of gameplay that some people want.
Right.
And I think that if you watch this video, Matt does a really interesting job of accepting the locations that they are creating as important to the characters' backstories.
Yeah.
So the characters have touchstones in this world that are important to them that Matt could go to in his story if he wanted, but none of them are the vital locations.
Yeah.
And I think there's this idea in criticisms I see of Daggerheart that the game is collaborative to the point where the DM just has to do what the players want. And it's just a criticism I don't agree with.
Yeah,
I think that it's.
Yeah, I don't think I really understand that, because if a character's like, well, I'm from the main city, like anything that they say about the main city is only adding to the depth of it, and not necessarily changing it fundamentally. Like that's so interesting. I haven't watched a lot of Daggerheart criticism videos, so I'm really interested to hear that.
I have been, and you know, I think that what's so fascinating about it, one thing that I would like to stop seeing just in general are people who, and some of them are people I like, and whose content I've enjoyed in the past, but who are like, look, I haven't read the book, I haven't played the game, but here are my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Well, what do you mean? Why do you have and you know, it's not their fault. It's the like social media, like what is in the algorithm rage bait of our life.
Right. They have to make a video that is relevant on a topic that people are searching for right now, because that is a source of income and notoriety in this world.
But if you start your video with, I have not interacted with this on any deep level, but I'm gonna tell you why it's not good.
Yeah.
I there was one guy, I watched his whole video, and every point that he made, I was like, just read the book, man.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know anything.
Yeah.
And we live in a society where people speak from ignorance to a degree that is like truly unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It's like reviews of a game, and they do start with, I haven't read, you know what I mean? Like, at least he was like, look, these are my impressions based on I don't know what.
I guess if you want to do a video where you're just blatantly wrong online, so that then you can make a correction video afterwards, I guess that's a kind of engagement.
But no, I've engaged with a lot of criticism of the game, and I do find the concerns that DMs have, because it's mostly DMs, right? There aren't a lot of players that review games.
Right.
Usually it's from the people who run it, because let's be real, like DMs are the people who are going to read it. DMs are the people who actually have to like know the system.
For sure.
The number of times I've DM'd people who are like fairly established in the space, who like talk about this as their job, and who like fundamentally don't understand the rules of the games that they play, without like constantly being like, how does this work?
Yeah.
Is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like there are a number of people in the TTRPG space who, and I'm not saying that I'm like a rules god. I'm not, right?
Yeah,
like we fucked up so many rules during Astral Dusk and stuff.
In so many of our games.
But I would argue that we're not TTRPG content creators. Like that is a section of what we do.
Yeah.
And also we're babies in this. Like we're on the up and up.
Yeah, we're brand new.
There are some people who are like established vets who I'm like, armor class?
Yeah. Which is why session 0 is so important. So if you have questions, you can talk through like, what does this rule mean? Hey, maybe I'm not understanding this. Like, what does this card do for my character? And
Which
things
is
like that.
A great moment in this. Thank you for the pivot back. I was lost in the weeds there.
I got you.
I was in the woods. The moment where, you know, there's a few moments like this, but Travis clarifies with Matt what the ability would mean.
Yes.
And one of the nice things about Daggerheart is that because you can only have 5 cards at a time, and because at low levels you are rather limited in your cards, right? You can take time in a session 0 to make sure that you and the DM are on the same page.
Yeah.
Because nothing is worse in a TTRPG than when you want an ability to work in a way that is an interpretation.
I'm going to do this. And the DM's like, well, that's actually not how that works. And
that's not how English works.
Okay, well, fuck me, I guess. Well, and you don't have like a wizard with 50 spells at their disposal, and you have to go through each and every one of them. Like Daggerheart is more streamlined in that way.
The wizard cards do have more spells on them than other things, but like tome spell cards, and we'll get into those when we do the like class videos.
Yeah.
But no, it is nice to have the ability in a session 0 to make sure that, you know, because I've seen like players be like, hey, technically if I'm like running through these characters at this speed, it would like, and I'm like, I understand that you're like trying to add physics into D&D.
Yeah.
But that's not how that works.
Sure.
And I think that handling that in a session 0 when your characters aren't at risk yet, when it's not like, no, I need this to work or else my character is going to die, and so I have an emotional investment. Yeah. When it's like, hey, DM, like, let's fill this out. I just think it's a better avenue for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, especially after having watched session 0 and the mechanics that they employed, I actually like am more convinced that Daggerheart is a great starting tabletop game.
I think people. The cards make it. I think people underestimate how much the cards make it easier to understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Like I know for me especially, back when we were printing them out and cutting them up ourselves, like I was like, oh, this is actually so nice to have. Because if I have a sheet with a list of spells on it, and I like plan it, I'm like, okay, I kind of want to do this. I kind of sometimes get lost in the sheet when it comes back to my turn. But if I have a card, I will literally like hold on to a thing. Like I will like have a physical touchstone for the a question that I have, what I want to do next, like what direction I want to move the story forward in. Like having those physical things is fantastic, and I'm so happy that we got the deluxe version because it's also so pretty. Yeah, the gold leafing, the gold like edges are really cool on those cards. Whatever the foil is, stunning. We probably should have started at the beginning, but one of the way that Matt starts his session 0 here is he reads from the book, not from this book, because I don't think they use the limited edition on their video. Right. But we have this beautiful Gilmore's Glorious Goods colored book. It's so sexy. And he started by introducing them to the world of Umbra by reading from the book, which is not necessarily the way that I think you have to start a session 0, but I do think you have to start by reading from the book. But I do think you should read the book. Coming in and being like, hey, like
let's set the tone.
Yeah.
Right? And the tone of this is like, in a dying world, immersed in relentless shadow and nightmarish monsters, small communities hold fast to the light, hoping those who endure can find a way to save this broken realm before all is lost to darkness. And he went on to have a really great explanation of the tone.
Yes.
And immediately the players were like, let's name the main town David Duchovny, which is very funny.
I don't get the reference.
He's an actor.
Sure. Yeah.
And David Duchovny does not end up being the name of the main town not because Matt steps in, but and Travis is also the CEO, so like he's a little bit maybe the more mature one. He's like, no, that's not the vibe, right?
Right.
But it's because Matt set the vibe. Yeah. And I think that that's something about Session Zeros that is very underrated, is that by Matt laying down the vibe first, lead with vibes, the whole Session Zero, there are times where you can literally watch them check each other and be like, I don't think that's the vibe of this.
Yeah.
And the players, if you can invest them in the vibe right at the beginning of your Session Zero, they will roll with it. And they, I think that it helps them push each other into, not push, but like, encourage people to stay within the game that they're all agreeing to play.
Yeah.
Nothing sucks more than when you have one player who doesn't get the vibe.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the world doesn't feel real. Why are we doing this?
Well, and I think that Ashley's character specifically, like, wouldn't work in a lot of other settings at all. Like, this idea of, like, a creepy music box clank. But
it's so Dark Souls coded.
Yes, yeah. It is. And I dig that. But that kind of character, that kind of vibe, like, maybe would be out of place in like a fun little heist, like Friends campaign, like Happy Go Lucky, right? Her entire it sounds creepy. It's this thing from the past. Like there's so much there to uncover. Whereas you're joking around and hanging out with your friends, and then one player's got this like crazy backstory where they're like reanimated by a spirit. Like, right? There's a lot there.
Yeah, I can't remember what. This is so bad because I should remember the characters that have been on our channels. But someone in one of our charity events, the problem is we have like 24 characters in each of these charity events.
Yeah.
One of them was a bard, Robit, who had like a keytar for an arm.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but I immediately thought of that. When Ash was coming up with their character, I was like, oh, we've had a similar vibe. And it's so fun. I'm not saying that Ashley copied us. I promise you.
No.
It is just one of those fun ideas of like, I don't want to be a musician. I want to be the instrument.
Yeah.
I want to be a living instrument is always such a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that the vibe is important. And I think that being on the same page, near the end of this, the only really boundary setting we get in this, because, one of the things that's very important about a Session Zero is boundaries, is, what safety tools you're going to use and what are the rules for interacting with other characters.
Yeah.
The safety tools are important and you should be using them at your table.
Yeah.
Obviously, Critical Role doesn't go through that at all because they've been playing together for 11 and a half years.
They are very well established and know each other well. Well, and they've known one another for God even knows how long at this point.
Yeah. And also their game is on video.
Yeah.
So there's one of those things where like we've never had a problem. Like I don't think we've ever used a safety tool on Roleplay Relay.
No.
And not that I'm not saying our players don't have access to them.
Not that we haven't established it, but we've never had to like pause.
But part of that is because everyone knows they're on video and there's a limit to there is a awareness of being filmed, I think, that kind of keeps people a little bit more in line.
Yeah. And that's why you establish beforehand as well.
And also, like, I don't, because it's videotaped, I'm like, there's a lot of things we're just not going to touch because I don't want the audience to, like, be strong on them, right?
Yeah.
But those are, in a home game, I would be a little bit more free. I'd probably go a little bit darker.
Sure.
And there's textual elements that I think are a little bit more available when you're not worried about who's watching it on the other end of the feed.
Yeah.
So Critical Role doesn't get into that here other than to say, Matt, be like, how deadly do you want this to be?
Yeah.
And the glee with which they are ready to die is very fun.
Yeah.
But I also, I appreciated them having at least that here.
Yeah.
And I think that I wouldn't mind if they or some of the other big channels who it's tough. One of the I kind of wish they had gone more into that part of a session 0.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I think they need it, but I think that this is.
But it was a video for an audience. And so if you are establishing your game, selling your game, basically, I think those are important things to touch on, because there are some people who struggle with how do I bring that up in conversation? What does conversation look like? You know, like, and as a player, how do I bring up something tactfully? You know, like, there's that human nature element.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just watching other humans that you respect go through that same conversation takes some of the weight off of having to have it, because it can be a heavy conversation depending on the subject matter of it, for sure.
Well, and I also just think that it's such a big part of their book, right? Daggerheart. And this is like the intentionally darkest thing they've done on the channel.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think there's a lot of people watching session 0s, but this one will probably get a lot of views. And I think there was an opportunity there to kind of
set
the bar for the community on what this kind of thing is.
Yeah.
Especially within Daggerheart.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of almost a missed opportunity for them to be sort of an industry leader in that.
Yeah. Because it's conversations that they undoubtedly have already had.
Mm-hmm.
It would not have been a conversation for them. It would have been a conversation for the audience to then be a part of and, you know, bring back into their own game. So I agree. I think that especially because of the game Daggerheart specifically and how they've written it and published it, it would have been nice. Yeah. It would have been nice to see. I do love how deadly do you want this to be? I think that's a very important thing to
Fun
establish.
Question.
Well, you know, like there are going to be some people playing TTRPGs who are very precious about their characters.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That is completely understandable. I am not judging those people for it. And I think that the DM should be aware that character death is not something that they're going to want to explore. And I think that it needs to be a conversation with the DM of being like, okay, then you can't reasonably put yourself in a situation where your character is going to die. You can't throw yourself off a cliff with no means of escape. I can't Deus Ex Machina get you out of every situation. And so we need to establish the level of danger in which I'm going to put you in and you're going to put yourself in.
Yes. And I think that that's my biggest problem with a lot of players on the, like, I don't want my character to die path.
And then they go do absolutely absurd things that would then kill any normal person.
Or get them arrested by the town guard. You know what I mean? They want to interact with the world from a place of safety that the DM can't provide.
Or more like a video game.
Yeah.
Where the Skyrim guards come up and they're like, you gotta pay your gold or whatever, and you can just murder them all.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and then come back to town and it's fine.
Well, no, technically not, but they will run up to you and like ask for money again.
Jesus.
Yeah, maybe Skyrim's not the best example. Because you do have to like pay it off eventually. But yeah, there are some games where you leave an area and the consequences kind of just disappear.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing. I think that I think that you have to be, if you're going to play games that are as combat focused as these are.
Yeah.
And systematically, a lot of these games have combat in mind.
Yeah. Daggerheart doesn't have to be combat focused. It can be very minimal combat, but this particular campaign frame that they're doing, it absolutely calls for heavy combat.
I just think that if you're going to have any level of combat in your game, you have to accept that your character might die.
Yeah.
Now, how deadly something is can be how hard the combat is going to be. You know, like we're about to do, shout out to Crispy from Crispy's Tavern.
Yeah.
We're about to film a one-shot with them on Friday, and I'm very excited. And they were like, hey, so this is going to be really hard. Bring really, like, min-max your characters a little bit.
Yeah.
And they were upfront about that because we did a session 0 with them.
Yes.
And I really appreciated them being like, hey, just so you know.
Yeah.
this is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And
we've set the expectations.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going into being like, if we fail, if we lose, all right.
Yeah.
We tried.
It's kind of fun.
Crispy will kick our ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait for people to see that. Go if you're not following Crispy's Tavern here on YouTube. They make great videos. Definitely go check them out. Yeah. What have we not covered? We talked about. Okay, so the structure of a session 0, in my opinion, build the vibes, build your characters.
Yeah.
Build your characters like physical abilities, then connections, relationships, and then boundaries. Well, the boundaries, here's the thing. Because of the connections thing, I might switch that. I
would put boundaries first because like some people might be uncomfortable with
character elements.
Yeah. Hey, I don't really want any flirtation with my character. I don't feel comfortable role playing that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Then we can use that in how we establish relationships with the other characters at the table as well, right?
And I struggle with that.
With what in particular?
With not flirting with people's player characters. It's an acknowledged struggle. When as a DM, I create NPCs and then players flirt with them. And you're like, all
right, I guess we're doing that now.
Like, oh yeah, I'm just hitting on all of my friends simultaneously. That's wild.
You started it. Yeah. I mean, at D&D, Daggerheart, any TTRPG can kind of be like that, which is why you session 0 and you establish if that's a line or not.
Yeah, because let me know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I just tell me. I don't struggle with it if none of my friends have ever said don't flirt with me. So I've never been in that position, but like if someone did.
Wow, lucky you. No, I'm kidding.
In D&D.
Yeah, I'm teasing.
No, but yeah, I think so you go story, boundaries, and then characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think too that like first thing that you have to do is give a bit of the world, the vibe, the context. Yeah. Because like I know so many people who have like 15 different characters simultaneously in the back of their brain that they're always constantly building and fleshing out, and could pick any one of them, but maybe this one specifically is suited for this story, right? And so we're gonna bring that out of the memory bank and flesh that out. Those people very much impress me. I have no long-term memory whatsoever. You laid down a structure for what you think a session 0 should look like. I think it was pretty close to what Critical Role. It was basically what Critical Role did. I thought the video was very interesting. I liked watching them set those things up. I do also wish that they had brought in more of the safety tools, but I'm actually really excited for their game.
Yeah.
Just with everything that they talked about, with the characters that they set up, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that sounds great. I do also think that, in particular for Daggerheart, Session 0 is really helpful for establishing experiences, because those are either really easy and I'm like, oh yeah, obviously this makes sense for the character, or I'm like, fuck, I need something to riff off of to create experiences for this character. And if you haven't played Daggerheart, an experience is basically a skill related to your character and their backstory that you can name. Like, it could be I don't even know, professional arm wrestler, and like maybe you get to add that +1 or +2 to like physical brawls or something like that.
It is very funny to me that this is their game that they made,
and they're like, oh man, what do I?
Well, and I don't know that they have a fully formed. I don't think that they have a collective idea about what experiences are, even within their company. Experiences are one of those weird things in Daggerheart that I think are going to rub people the wrong way. I think that they are.
Yeah. And
partially because I've seen it. Yeah. Right? I've seen people be like, I don't know what this is, and so I'll just come up with something and then I'll never use it. And there are some players who, when we played, Charity Heart or Penultimates, who use it all the time.
Yeah.
Who are like always trying to get their experience in there. And then I noticed there's a lot of players that I've played with who never bring it up.
Yeah.
And it's such a useful part of the game, but it is really fascinating watching people watching this, where like these people who like they made the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't obviously, like, it's Spencer and Rowan, and they're all tangentially involved in it, but I know they've been playtesting it like crazy.
Yeah.
That they, even among the like that team, the experience thing is still the most sticking point moment of a session 0.
Yeah, I think we'll probably end up doing an entire discussing Daggerheart episode on experiences, because I think there is so much there to talk about. But one thing I'll propose before we wrap this up is the idea of maybe allowing your characters a couple of sessions to come up with their experiences, right?
I like that.
I think there's something super beneficial about getting a character set up and maybe not knowing what those experiences are going to be, and then actually having your players role playing them in the moments, and then being like, well, I said that, like, my character, one of their favorite hobbies was rock climbing. So, okay, well then I have an experience in that. My grip strength is really good, or I'm not afraid of heights, or something that kind of comes from that I think, like, maybe doesn't have to be established in session 0. I think a little bit of flexibility in when those experiences are set up, are established, can go a long way. Because I know personally, I discover things about my character while I'm playing them that I may not have known previously, and that is part of the fun of the game for me. So we can talk about it more in depth in, I think, like a specific episode, but I wanted to like propose and throw that out there because it's not 100% related to a session 0, but it is saying, hey, in session 0, if you don't have your experiences fleshed out right away, maybe we can like put a pin in it and fill out those blanks in the next couple of weeks when we actually get to play and get a feel for the character.
Yeah, I actually really like that. I think that being like, it's hard not to, in a session 0, view them as sort of a min-maxy kind of like thing. Yeah. Because I think that one of the pressures of the experiences in a session 0 is
how is this going to be useful?
Yes.
Yes. And it doesn't always have to be.
What experience can I reasonably say my character has that I can use a hope to spend on almost every scenario so that I get the most out of it? Yeah. And I think that pressure, the like mechanical pressure of it, does kind of change it a little bit. And you can see people trying to be like, I like this experience. I like the idea of this experience, but how would it be used? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And that is maybe less important than you need to make it.
But if your game's going to be very deadly, maybe it is important, right? Maybe that +1/+2 is a very big deal.
And that's why you need to establish that in session 0.
Yeah. So it's one of those interesting parts of Daggerheart that I'm excited to explore more as we play the game more. Yeah. And it's also one of the things, because I've never had them. As a DM, I haven't actually experienced playing them. Like, I just hear experiences and I'm like, yeah, do you have a hope to spend? Go for it. Yeah. And so when I do get a chance to actually play the game on the other side of the table, I wonder how it's harder for me to have an opinion on it because I've never actually come up with an experience for my own character.
That is fair. Yeah. That is fair. Maybe one of our episodes will be like almost a mini session 0. And whether or not we play the game, that's up for debate, but like talking through what that might look like in like building a character together.
We'll do like a mock session 0, like we're Model UN.
Model UN? Yeah.
It's like in schools you would have like Model UN and you would like learn about the practice of I don't know.
No idea, but sure,
it's
exactly
for kids
like that.
Who want to do the like acting of drama but don't have any talent.
What? So it's just like
it's pretending. It's pretending to be the UN. Yeah.
Like the United Nations?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, they get together and then they like someone is like famine has broken out in Ghana. How does the United Nations band together? And then the students like pretend to be the UN and solve global crises in order to learn about global politics and things. Oh. It's like a club. Yeah.
Sure. This is all new information to me and it is fascinating. But yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah. And then, hey, maybe we'll love it so much. We're like, damn it, now we have to play this game.
Yeah, we'll just need to find a game master.
Yeah.
This was interesting. Fun conversation. I feel like you brought better points than I did, so I'm going to say you won this one.
This is not a competition.
I want it to be a competition, and I'm going to say you won.
Great. Yeah, I'll take a win.
No, you made some really great points. I think that, I love chatting about things with you because you reframe my thoughts so well.
And I love chatting with you because I feel like sometimes there's things that I miss, and you're very, like, you're very attentive and a good communicator. So.
Marriage.
Podcast.
Daggerheart.
Yeah.
Would you run Daggerheart without a session 0?
Would I mean, yes. I
know that I would.
I would, but I don't know that I would be as excited to play the game without it.
I said that I wouldn't, but for Charity Heart, we had such a weird...
we couldn't. We literally...
Well, but we did a session 0 with Jasmine Bilar and Danny Carr.
But not with any players.
Yeah. And
so it's very different.
Yeah, it was a very different experience.
I mean, I was a player, so I guess technically I got to be there.
And Danny was.
Right, yes.
But, no. Anyway... create your worlds, have fun, play games. We'll be back with more discussing Daggerheart next week. And I think we're going to start actually talking about the game.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the classes. We're going to talk about
I think next week we're going to start with heritages, right? We're going to talk ancestries.
Yes. We're going to start with the ancestries.
So we're going to go through all the ancestry abilities and fun ways we would play each ancestry. Yeah, ways we could work them into worlds. Thank you for joining us for this discussion about session 0s. Mm-hmm. Hope you liked it. If you didn't, let us know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, do all those things. Hit the dislike button. Leave me in comments because the algorithm goddess is hungry and we got to feed her. It's really hard to have an algorithm goddess in these episodes, but I'm going to say it's this horned person on the cover of the limited edition book.
Love that for us.
If you want to follow us around the internet, you can. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Claris Polaris.
Do something nerdy tonight.
Bye, guys.
Bye.